All right, let's get into the power rankings, and we have to start. Dude, there's a new number one on your power rankings, and who else could it be but I assume the Ravens were number 2 before this game. Yes, they were, because they moved up one spot. Lamar Jackson, I would hope, is your MVP, Pete, at this point. Brock Purdy, not even on your ballot?
Well, we are such prisoners of the moment when it comes to these things.
I mean, Brock Purdy peed down his leg on.
Oh, it's not Brock Purdy, but Lamar Jackson's numbers in terms of the grand context of things aren't that great. Now, he'd probably be my MVP. What if Tua goes up there and throws for 350 and 3 touchdowns and beats him this week?
How many of that does Tyreek have?
None.
Stop it.
Okay, then Tua.
I mean, Tyreek missed a game. Waddle went nuts, and they beat the Cowboys without Tyreek doing much of anything. So it's hard for me to even have him on the ballot.
I think it's the MVP ballot right now in no order: Lamar, Tua, Tyreek, Josh Allen, and
Brock.
McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Those are the 6.
I don't even know who's another rando that you would put in there, Breach. You usually have some random.
He's going to put Matt Stafford in.
No,
you
that would
only
be
get 5 though, Pete. You named 6.
Who, my 5? Put Stafford in there, Pete.
I named 6. What'd you say?
Put Stafford in there.
Josh Allen?
No, I didn't put him in.
He said Josh Allen.
Josh Allen should be.
Yeah.
We did our MVP ballots for Jared Dubin's post. Here's mine: Lamar Jackson 1, Josh Allen 2, Matthew Stafford 3, 2 of 4, and Jalen Hurts 5.
Jalen Hurts.
Stop
Jalen
trying to
Hurts.
make that happen.
Jalen Hurts should not be in the conversation this
No,
year.
that's a what you
Wait,
do that for?
how did you do it? Do it again. Well, I want to hear it one more time so I can dispute the whole thing.
Lamar 1, Josh Allen
Okay.
2,
Okay.
Matthew Stafford 3,
No.
2 of 4,
Okay.
Jalen Hurts 5.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts is.
That came out of nowhere. Over Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy.
The 49ers are an awesome team. They are not a team that I think is going to be worthy of having an MVP because there's so many different players that are so valuable. I don't think you can take, to me with San Francisco, you can't say Purdy's more
valuable than McCaffrey.
Yeah, and I have a hard time. Look, Christian McCaffrey's awesome. I mean, I've watched him for years in Carolina and love the guy, but I have a hard time I just have a hard time saying to give it to the running back. I don't know.
Well, and the other thing is the history of that position in that offense, going back to the Mike Shanahan days. Terrell Davis was great. When he wasn't there, Mike Anderson put up big numbers. When Mike Anderson was there, Orlandis Gary put up big numbers. Everybody's put up big numbers in that offense. When the 49ers didn't have their guys, they put up big numbers. Mostert put up big numbers. All those guys have.
And I would say the hardest part about making the argument for running back to win MVP is really just look at the Christmas game at the Ravens win, where you had Christian McCaffrey go off for 131 yards and they still lost by 2 touchdowns. If you're the MVP and you play out of your mind, your team is almost certainly going to win, not get destroyed. So it's just tough for.
I think Pete's right. I think both you, Breach and Brinson, are victims of the moment. You won't give anyone a break. They have one bad game. You want to kick them off the planet.
Well, right, but if it's Purdy versus Lamar Jackson head to head, I'm going to take Lamar Jackson because
that's a different conversation.
Here's the other thing: the 40. Look how great the Ravens are.
Over your face.
3 weeks ago, the Rams should have beat the Ravens at Baltimore,
but they didn't.
But they should have. But you know who did? The Colts did. They're not very good. We get too caught
every
up in
team has a bad loss.
We get too caught up in what's happening right now.
I agree with you, and I say that too. I'm we just react like crazy after 1 week of football, and then that's just how the NFL works. It's why the NFL loves that we do it. It's because you have no choice but to react on a week-to-week basis. I think if you take a step back and say, all right, here's the totality of Brock Purdy's season, you're like, this is a great season. To me, the MVP race this year, it's sort of part of the theme about this year with all the backup quarterbacks playing this year. You lose, and then also remember the thing Tom Brady said about play being down or whatever he was trying to come out and say. I think it's just the transition from one generation of quarterbacks to this next generation of quarterbacks. You're not getting the greatest season from Mahomes. You've got guys like Tua and Dak who are flirting with it. Jalen Hurts is playing okay at some points in time. I mean, there's no defined MVP right now. I think if Josh Allen had 2 monster games to close out the year and the Bills won the division, that Josh Allen's going to win the MVP.
I don't necessarily agree with that, because if the Ravens, for him to win the division, that means the Ravens have to
beat the Dolphins.
Dolphins, so they would be the 1 seed, and I think that he would get MVP no matter what he does the rest of the way. But look, Lamar's not putting up gaudy numbers,
right?
He's just playing really good football because that defense is so good. He doesn't have to put up gaudy numbers.
I think he's playing better now than he is in 2019.
I would agree. Yeah. I would agree.
It reminds me of. I agree with you too. It reminds me of Mahomes playing better at the position in 2018 than he did in 2017, even though the numbers statistically regressed back a bit from the ridiculous 20. Like, he was a better quarterback in 2018, but the numbers in 2017 were just outrageous.
Yeah, I think quarterbacks grow up. I think Lamar Jackson, instead of just being dynamic runaround guy, putting up wonderful plays because he can move, he's playing quarterback now. He's
and by the way,
he moves to throw rather than just move to run. And I
haven't looked it up, Pete, but you talk about his numbers being down. Those wide receivers have probably dropped 4,000 balls this year. Every single week, someone's getting hit in the face. Zay Flowers had a tough patch. They dropped 1,000 balls in that Steelers loss. Every week it's someone else. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt on that, because I think he's actually throwing the ball better too.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. He's throwing the ball much better. I think this offense fits him perfectly. I think Todd Monken, by the way, does a great job calling the plays.
Both those coordinators are doing very good.
Because the defensive coordinator is special.
He's averaging 223.8 yards per game. He's at his highest number of passing yards in a season already for his career. He's at 19 touchdowns. The difference between 2019 and this year is he had that 9% touchdown rate, and that's unsustainable, but a very similar interception rate. And, I think then when you look at his rushing, he's averaging, 5.5 yards per attempt, led the league in 2019 with 6.9 yards per attempt, and just 52.4 yards per game versus 80.4 that season. I think, and if the 49ers had kept it close, I think this would have borne out. We talked about this last night, but I do think Lamar is going to run more the final 2 weeks of the season if he plays in week 18. And then in the playoffs, I think they're going to have more designed runs as part of that offense. And they purposely kept them out of that offense. Not that they're going to have to do, that's going to be the offense. He's going to pass still, but I think they're going to.
You've talked about this theory a couple of times. Is that just a Brinson theory, or you're leaning into something? Like, why do you think he's going to run more?
Well, his rushing attempts are just up the last couple of weeks.
Okay, I'm just wondering because you talked about it. I didn't know if you knew something.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like if you look at he had only like 5 games all season long with more than 10 rushes, and then had 14 2 weeks ago, 12, and then excuse me. Had sorry, it's the other way around. He had 4 all season long with double-digit rushing attempts, and then has had 11, 12, and then just 7 against the 49ers in a game that was kind of a blowout.
But again, his runs aren't as many called runs as, like last night he had the big play off of the scramble. I mean, his runs they're not called like they used to be. So I think that's one of the they have a
few more designed runs sprinkled in there, but I just think it's a byproduct of we've let him play in the pocket all season long. He stayed healthy, and now we can be a little more aggressive running the football with Lamar. I'm
going to give the Ravens front office a ton of credit here.
Sure.
And they've been, dating back to Ozzie Newsome, they've been fantastic for a long, long time. And they've, had a lot of guys come out of that front office because they're usually good football guys. They've done an amazing job. When you think about Clowney and Van Noy, Clowney was picked up right before the season. Van Noy was picked up during the season. And those guys are a big part of what they do on defense. It's incredible what they've done. And I'm going to sit here right now and say I was wrong about Kyle Hamilton because he's turned into a really
good. I was thinking about him last night. I was thinking about you too. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's turned into a really good football player. I think, people are prisoners in a moment again or putting him he hadn't played like that all season. That happened to be one of his best games.
He's had a good stretch, though. He's
still good, though. He's still played. What'd you say? And look,
Hall of Famer?
I still don't think he has great twitchy hips, turn the hips and run, but the way they use him, he's really good the way they use him.
Just leave him closer to the line of scrimmage. They're using him properly. That's another thing that you have to do that we don't see all the time. You use the kids wrong and then they stink.